Now, it's 5 p.m. on a Friday. Everybody's been there. Your client calls asking, how's my project going? And you don't have a single answer. Emails, Slack threads, spreadsheets, they're all out of sync. So you've got missed deadlines, uncertainty about who's doing what. But that's the reality when your project data lives everywhere but in one place. So today, let's see how Synergist puts everything at your fingertips. So hopefully you can answer your client instantly. So what are we going to cover? In this session, we're going to look at how Synergist provides you with project planning tools to help you with scope projects accurately from day one. So that's with clear estimates, timelines, profit forecasts that keep every job on track from brief to delivery. Then we'll touch on resource scheduling to how to allocate people and time effectively without or using, the kind of drag and drop scheduling or traffic managed requests. Then we'll touch on task management, so managing daily priorities with visibility over deliverables, deadlines, dependencies, all linked directly to your wider project plan. Communication tools, so centralizing conversations, feedback and files, so you can ditch all the email chains and keep everybody aligned in one workspace. And then finally, your real-time budget tracking. So gaining instant visibility of costs, time and profitability to help you stay in control of margins, hopefully make smarter decisions before the project goes off track. But don't just take my word for it. This is a quote I love from Andrew at Roosterpunk because it really captures one of the biggest challenges agencies face when choosing a system. We know that there are hundreds of project management tools out there, but most are designed for kind of generic workflows. We know that agencies are different. You've got retainers, projects, freelancers, different billing models, creative teams working in fast-moving environments. So what Synergist does differently is flex around your business model, not the other way around. So it gives you structure and visibility without forcing you to compromise on how you deliver your work. And that's exactly why agencies like Roosterpunk chose Synergist. Now, for some of you on the webinar, you may already know about Synergist, but for those who don't, Synergist is the UK's #1 agency management software, as recently reported in the agency bench press survey. It is trusted by over 500 agencies nationwide. We've been building Synergist since 2003 with one goal in mind: to create a platform designed specifically for agencies like yours. It's highly configurable, so whether you're running a creative agency, digital marketing team, PR, or really any other type of professional service business, it can be tailored to fit the way that you work. So why do so many agencies choose Synergist? Well, you might recognize this picture. Many agencies end up juggling multiple systems. So perhaps you've got spreadsheets for budgets, a tool for briefs, another for pipeline, perhaps something else for resourcing, project tracking, separate invoicing software. The result is it's all time consuming, disconnected, and it's almost impossible to get a single accurate view of what's really going on across the business. So that's where Synergist changes the game. It brings all those processes together in one place, from the very first brief or sales opportunity, right the way through to project delivery and invoicing. The workflow is seamless, the data connected, and you can see the whole picture in real time. So yes, it saves you time, but more importantly, it gives you clarity, improves efficiency, and helps you make, hopefully, smarter and more profitable decisions. Right, so that's enough of the preamble. Let's dive straight now into the demo. For that, I'm going to have to switch screens, and I'm also going to turn my camera off so you can see more of the screen, not just me. So bear with me while I just do that. Okay. Right. So now you should hopefully be able to see my Synergist screen. So we're going to start, as I mentioned, with jobs. And we know that agencies deal with lots of different types of jobs. So Synergist can help you plan whether it's a small job or perhaps a more kind of complex multi-phase project. It helps you keep track of project progress, financials, and also hopefully profitability. Now, there are different options for doing this. You can use previous project data templates to ensure that you've got perhaps more accuracy and efficiency and consistency across the network. And that means that you can break more complex projects down into multiple jobs, phases, tasks, but it allows you to add time and cost estimates at each level to help you track profitability. So if we look to my example here, when it comes to creating a new job, yes, we can create a new one from scratch. That's fine, something perhaps that's bespoke. We can copy a job that we've previously done, or as I mentioned, one of the options is we have the ability to use job templates. So in the background, we can create a structure of the typical jobs that you deliver so that people are using the template. Again, as I mentioned, hopefully helping you with consistency, particularly in reporting. So if I was to do a digital development job, I'm presented with an option to copy dates, maybe the status, maybe the billing plan. So maybe you have a fixed billing schedule for design digital jobs. I can copy across quotes. We can include different estimates of time purchases. This is a nice feature here is because if you create a template and then you start to record time and cost against it, you may find that actually what you've templated isn't correct. So another option I've got is when I create my new job, I can base the new job on the actuals of the previous job, not just what's in the template. So that's really useful. And again, at the bottom, I can choose whether I actually need every single part that we have already identified in the template. Now, how does that look? So if I jump into this creative strategy job here, you can see in this instance, I've broken my job down into three core components, three phases: creative conceptualization, project direction, content direction. So again, that's something that can be pulled through from the template. What it allows me to do, because the estimate is our internal calculation of what we think we need to deliver this project, I can identify how many hours we need of each different resource type. Maybe you incorporate some third-party costs. So here I'm going to buy some media. It's going to cost 1,000 and we've got a 20% uplift. So the estimate allows me to produce a couple of kind of key things. One, it's going to allow me to produce my capacity forecast. Now I've done previous webinars on capacity and resourcing. So here I can say, well, if we win this project, realistically, we're going to need around 200 hours to deliver it across the different parts. And then we can look at kind of what types of resources we require. It also allows me to see if this project went ahead and we did deliver this, it'll cost around about 30,000. And if we go off our client rate card or agency rate card, the system is going to recommend how much we should be quoting for this piece of work. And if that all went to plan, what our estimated net and gross profit might be. Now, as I mentioned, your estimate is internal. This is what we think we need to deliver the project. You, though, might not be able to or want to produce a quote to your client in that format. You may not want to show them each individual rate card or how many hours you've estimated. So the quote allows us to kind of either present the quote in a different format. So here we're doing kind of more kind of value proposition. So for example, creative conceptualization, we've just said it's 21 grand. And I've given them some kind of idea of what we're doing to deliver that part of the job. So I can amend how we present it, but I can also amend how much we charge for this piece of work. So if you need to kind of, you can get away with 50 grand, great. If you need to discount it, that's also fine. But the reason that you might play around with how much you charge this work for is because we track this concept of investment. It's basically your under over recovery. So we'll track how much you've invoiced a client to date against what you should have invoiced them based on the work that you've delivered. So let's say, for example, Diageo, we've invoiced 100 grand across a number of projects. We should have invoiced them 110. We've under recovered by 10 grand. That sits in a little pot called investment. So on the next project, you might try and recoup some of that back. Okay. So that's on the quote side. Let's now, while we're in the job, look at some of the project tools. So if I nip into the phase structure, then there's options to produce our Gantt charts. So this gives you a clear visual timeline of every project showing key milestones, dependencies and task progress all in one place. You can drag and drop to adjust schedules and instantly see the impact of any changes and hopefully identify any kind of bottlenecks before they become issues. Now, you can also view these Gantt charts across multiple projects, which then makes it easier to see how timelines overlap and spot potential clashes and manage workloads more effectively. So it's ideal for project managers who want to stay in control of deadlines, but also for teams who need to see visibility of what's happening next. So here you can see I can look at my job as a total. I can look at it by individual phase or the tasks that sit within those phases. And some of those phases could be milestones. Some of those milestones could then relate to your billing schedules. So if a milestone slips, it can have an impact on when the client will be invoiced. And we have dependencies. So if a dependency moves, anything that's dependent on that will also move accordingly. That also includes as well the ability to create lags on things. So if there's always a 2-day lag after doing this task before the next one starts, again, they can be factored into the Gantt chart too. You've also got the option as well to allocate these tasks to clients, because you may want to download this Gantt chart and have a branded copy of this, which you might share as part of the proposal with your client too. So no more guesswork. Everybody knows what's been sold, what's planned, and what's profitable before you start the work. Now let's look at resource booking. Okay, so the drag and drop calendar makes it easy to allocate work, balance workloads, and see exactly who's doing what and when. Now you can view your team, or you can view it by project or by department or individual, instantly spotting who's under or over capacity. And if you need to change something, then it's a very simple drag and drop process, and you can drag it to a new day, or maybe just to reassign it to another person. And then Synergist updates that availability and forecasts automatically. So it gives traffic managers and project leads a kind of a live visual view of both team capacity, which would hopefully kind of make their jobs easier. They can see bottlenecks and hopefully keep every project on track. So as I mentioned, can be filtered, but I've got 3 example teams. Top half of the screen, the bottom half of the screen is all of those job estimates that we've just seen. And the reason why the estimate is really important, because for a traffic manager, it's kind of really key to see how many hours you've allowed to deliver each of those tasks. And then once you've done that, it's really simple to kind of pick up a task and then drag that into somebody's diary. If you hover over, then it'll give me a very quick visual view of kind of what that booking is about. The different colors can mean different things. Depending on what you set the system up for, we can put in tentative and draft bookings as well if you need to reserve resources before something's been fully confirmed. What's also nice is I can switch this view. So at the moment we're looking at a booking view. If I switch this to the loading view, then we get much more of a capacity feel. So as you can see, works on a traffic light scenario, red, amber, green. Green means we've got availability. Amber means somebody's fully booked, and red means there's more time booked than there are hours in that period. What's also nice is that you can set different utilization rates across the different resources. So if Jay was an account exec and we set his utilization figures to be 6 hours, when Jay gets the 6 hours booked, he will go amber. Whereas if I'm an account director, then I might be more like 4.5 hours. So again, you can change kind of when people are fully booked according to what their role is within the agency. We can also view this in a different format. So if I switch to the dashboard view, perhaps look at it for next week, then it translates those bookings into more kind of a data-driven dashboard. So I can clearly see here on Monday what's booked, what non-chargeable time we've booked in, so perhaps that might be internal meetings, any holidays we've got scheduled, and therefore what availability we have on that day. And that's summarized here. We can see hours required, hours booked, percentage, less any holidays we have in the team, then giving me an idea of what my capacity is across the business next week, next 2 or 3 weeks. I can also see that by team or by individual within the team. So it's a really kind of neat tool that helps you make those recruiting decisions. Do we need a freelance within a certain team in the short term, or are we consistently over capacity and therefore we might need to kind of look at kind of recruiting somebody into that team too. So whether you're planning kind of top down or letting your team self-schedule, it gives you that kind of live capacity view. So hopefully you can avoid those kind of overbooked scenarios. Right. Next up, we're going to look at managing what we call tasks. So there are lots of different ways that agencies use the task functionality in Synergist. Now for this part of the demo, we're going to focus on how it's used to manage tasks, track progress, and then I'll be revisiting this page a little later to show you how it can also be used to capture and manage communication. So This is Synergist job Kanban board view, and it's a really visual way to manage tasks, track progress. So you can instantly see what's to do, what's in progress, what's on hold, what's complete. And it's as simple as dragging and dropping that you do in your Kanban boards, cards between the different swim lanes. It's worth pointing out as well that you can have multiple Kanban boards. So mine, these headings are customizable. You might have a Kanban board for production, which is different to a Kanban board for sales, for client services, whatever else. But each card can include details like, it could be a studio request. We can identify who the task is for. You might have checklists. We can keep an update in terms of how that checklist is progressing. We can identify the Kanban board status. We can identify who it's for. We can have watchers so that everybody is on the same page. Everybody's kind of can be alerted to what needs to happen on this task. You can also keep a track of comments at the bottom as well. So it acts as kind of an internal communications team and a history of kind of who's commented on each of the different tasks. Okay. You can also attach documents, but we'll come back to that in a second too. Now, you can view this as just one job. We did a second, as we did there. That was just a kind of a Kanban board for one job or one part of a job. But you can also zoom out to see this and filter tasks across the whole business by client, by team, by person, by type of activity, by project. So you have a centralized visibility of all tasks, which could be for you, could be where you're just watchers, or could be your clients too. So you can hopefully gives you better visibility and keeps you in control. Now, I mentioned attachments before. I'm going to jump back into that job and look at the attachments side of things. So this is kind of what we use to help you manage project communications and eliminate that whole kind of, where's that file moment. So everything you need can be stored in one place, from briefs, assets, approvals, final deliverables. Okay, so all your project files in one place on the attachments page. As I mentioned, typically it's things like briefs, assets, but it's all linked directly against this job. So no more kind of digging around through inboxes or shared drives to find your latest version. Everybody who needs access, from your account management team to creatives, can see the same files up to date, which makes hopefully collaboration a bit quicker and more consistent. Now, how you attach documents can vary. So here we can either have the situation where we can upload a document that perhaps already exists on your network or on your computer, well, like we have here. So we've got a kind of a creative brief that I've uploaded because that might have been sent to us. Or you can get the system to create a document for you. So you can build perhaps briefing templates in the background, which allows you to merge information. So here we have a kind of a briefing template that's been created by Synergist. Or you could choose to actually link Synergist to one of your cloud file storage systems. So actually, if you want to keep that assets centralized in SharePoint, for example, so everybody's annotating and updating the kind of same version, then again, we can store that as a link. Or you could have a simple URL. So lots of different ways of attaching documents, but it just means that everybody has access to the same information. And as we drag that booking into the calendar before, any work that's dragged into a calendar, that individual booking will also reference any attachments. So again, you're sharing them as you're allocating work across the business. Right, I'm going to dive back in, as I mentioned before, into the task section. So yeah, as I mentioned, there are different ways of using tasks. So now we're back here, we're going to look at how we use this to manage communication. So this can be where all your project communication and updates kind of come together. So you can record meeting notes, you can capture decisions, add comments or feedback directly against individual tasks. Emails can also be linked back to specific activities or projects. So everything from conversations to attachments is stored in one place, and it means that you've always got a kind of complete history of what's been discussed, agreed, and delivered without relying on somebody's inbox. So as I mentioned there, one of the task types might be email. So if I choose to BCC an email that I'm either sending or have received, that email can then be copied in against either the client, the prospect, the job, part of a job. So it just means then, yes, it's an email in my inbox, but I can then share that because it might be a sign off and it'll come through to Synergist and shared with everybody in the business. Okay. Finally, let's have a look at how Synergist helps you keeps you control of margins through real-time job tracking. So again, just snipping back into my job list. So this is the job kind of financial summary. You can filter this screen and have different columns depending on what you want to see. But for me, I can instantly see here how a project is performing against original budget. So all time, purchases and expenses, they're all updated live as work is recorded. So hopefully it gives you a kind of a clear view of the estimated versus actual values, how much budget is remaining, and your current profit and margin percentage. It means that you can see the commercial performance of a project at any point, not just waiting until the end. And if you drilled down a little deeper, so if we choose to drill into one of the jobs, we get presented with like a mini job P&L. So this is where you can see how every timesheet entry or cost feeds directly into this job. So you can also use this to forecast forward. So for example, if the scope changes or more time is needed, you can see instantly how this will impact on projected profit and billing schedules. So this really helps project managers and account teams make proactive decisions, hopefully before those margins slip. Now, that's just on the job. If we take a step back to look at this from a management viewpoint, we can roll everything up into a management dashboard. So this dashboard will give you real-time, high-level view of your agency's performance. And you can instantly see here things like profit to date, earnings per head, and your upcoming invoice forecast, all updated automatically from live job data. It also highlights who your best clients are, and that's whether it's based on what you've invoiced or recognized revenue. So you can clearly see where your kind of most valuable work is coming from. And because everything is visual and live, it's hopefully a lot easier to spot trends, track progress against targets, and make those quick, more informed decisions without relying on spreadsheets or manual reports. So that brings me to the end of our kind of brief overview. Apologies, I've dived around a lot, but I was trying to kind of show you a kind of full spectrum of what's possible when it comes to managing projects and clients in Synergist. So hopefully, just to recap, Synergist will allow projects to start right, so they're accurate, profitable and clear. Your resources stay balanced, your tasks never slip, your comms are centralized, and hopefully your budgets stay on track. So if this looks like the kind of clarity that your team needs, do let us know. We'd be happy to kind of set up a more kind of tailored demo and a walk through. If it was of interest as well, you might be interested in some of the other webinars we've delivered on our YouTube channel. So head across there for, as I said, webinars we've done previously, but also there's more kind of thought leadership and content that your agency might find useful. Thanks once again for kind of joining today. Do reach out and connect with us. We will send this video across to you later on if you want to share it with other team members. But yeah, thanks for joining me, and I hope you have a great day.